Got a question for you. Are your ant and elephant headed in the same direction? Hint: your ant is your conscious mind, your elephant is your subconscious mind. There's some research done by Dr. Lee Poulos. He found that in a second of time, your conscious mind utilizes 2,000 neurons, while your subconscious mind, sub meaning below consciousness, processing with 4 billion neurons. 2,000 neurons versus 4 billion. Who's in control, the conscious or the subconscious? You know, the ratio between the conscious and subconscious mind is the exact same ratio between an ant and an elephant. The ant, the conscious mind, is on the back of the elephant. The ant is making decisions on which direction to go. Where am I headed, says the ant. I'm going west, says the ant. Starts marching west. What if the elephant is headed east? Which way is the ant really going? What, east. But the conscious mind, the ant, is trying to head west. So for us to make conscious decisions of what we want to accomplish in our life, personally, professionally, our weight, our finances, the kinds of things we want to accomplish personally, professionally. If we make decisions with our conscious mind, yet the subconscious mind is not engaged, what's going to happen? It's going to go in the opposite direction. So in this podcast, what we're going to talk about is how to align your conscious and subconscious mind. It is absolutely essential to have an emotional buzz of where you're headed. Why? Because the subconscious mind is the source of emotion. And if there's no emotional buzz, if wanting to head in a direction isn't aligned with what drives you, what you want to accomplish, then there's going to be issues. You see, being a subconscious mind means that having these kinds of patterns that are very, very ingrained in us are going to hold us back or can propel us forward. Which do you choose? To have an alignment between the conscious intention and the subconscious agenda that you prefer is the tricky part. And there's all sorts of different ways to be able to shift our unconscious beliefs. You see, if you know a bit about my story, at 26 years old, I'd never ski raced before. At 30, I was vying for the gold medal in the Olympic Games. How do you go from recreational skier to the gold medal round in that short window of time? It has to do with the emotional buzz. And we are motivated by emotion. One of those emotions is regret. I raced in luge for about a couple years. But it became obvious that I wasn't going to make the national team. It also became pretty obvious that I wasn't going to. There was a lot of uncertainty, and I avoided the uncertainty and went for what was certain. I was fascinated by sports marketing. I had a degree from university that had me focus on those activities. I got a job offer to be the executive director for the luge sport in Alberta. We're going to host the Olympic Winter Games in Calgary. Everybody's excited about those Calgary Olympics. Do you remember Eddie the Eagle and the Jamaican bobsled team? Those Olympics. And to be in the host country city of Calgary, it was just so exciting, and everybody's geared up. And let's fast forward to the opening ceremonies of the Olympics in Calgary. You see, 4 years prior to those opening ceremonies, I'd tried luge. I'd raced and I went down to Lake Placid with a bunch of friends. And in Lake Placid, the national team coach made it very clear, yeah, you're not going to make the national team. And so I quit. Yet a buddy, Bob Gasper, heard the exact same message. He went home, quit his job, bought a luge sled, and went to Europe to luge on his own dime. Now here we are at the opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games. Each country marching in alphabetical order, the music and the pageantry, and it's just so exciting to be at an opening ceremonies because by tradition, the host country marches in last. And that crescendo of energy of athletes marching in, and when the host 40,000 people are out of their chairs just cheering for this host country national team. I had a ticket for those opening ceremonies. And when the national team marched in, the place went silent. Why? Because nothing was in focus. Couldn't hear anything because all I could see was the whites of the eyes of one guy. That was Bob Gasper. He's marching with the Canadian Olympic luge team, and I was in the stands with simply a ticket. And to be able to be at the opening ceremonies with just a ticket, this realization, and you won't know unless you try, unless you focus on this. You won't know unless you try. That emotion of being driven by regret. So often we are driven by this notion of what we want to accomplish, what we want to build, what we want to be a part of. But generally speaking, us human beings are motivated by what we never want to experience again. This may be speaking directly to you in terms of relationships. Hitting a low in relationships, or hitting a low with finances, or hitting a low with your health, or just basically hitting a low, being directionless, not knowing which direction to go. And finally, we realize that epiphany, something has to change from the discomfort. The discomfort at the opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games was so intense, this intense feeling of regret, and never again that feeling, I'm personally going to experience that feeling of regret, never again. To understand how the ant and the elephant play into this, understands that consciously, I also did never want to experience that feeling of regret. But at a subconscious level, it was so intense that I realized very deep down that that was never going to happen again, that feeling of regret, this motivation to never experience that feeling again. What if, think of this for a second, what if you combine the aspirational notion, this aspiring, in this case, to compete in the Olympic Games? Oh my gosh, that feeling of, wouldn't it be cool to march in the opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games? And at the exact same time, fusing this sting, that feeling of never again, with the same notion, never again will I not know what it would feel like. The way to accomplish that is to align your ant and elephant, your conscious and subconscious mind. How to do that is what this podcast is all about. How we can actually not just reach goals, but establish some extraordinary goals and exceed your own expectations. Think of this for a second. What if we actually exceeded what we even thought was possible? That is the reason for spending time with you here today, is to ensure that your conscious intention, your ant, is making decisions to take you in a direction that feels right. And folks, it doesn't have to make sense. I'm speaking to you right now. It doesn't have to make sense. It just has to feel right. What does that mean? Well, the conscious mind is an awareness of where we're at. And some feelings don't make any sense. But at the subconscious level, it makes perfect sense because it feels right. There's 2,000 neurons in a second that say this doesn't make sense. There's 4 billion neurons in saying this makes sense. Who's in control? The subconscious mind. There are two universal facts. You'll gravitate to that which you believe to be true, and you'll gravitate towards your dominant thought. Here's my question for you. Are you the architect for your dominant thought? Are you the architect for that which you believe to be true? See, here's the deal. These dominant thoughts can appear to us, and we just go, okay, this is taking my attention. Oh, this is a distraction. But are you the architect for your dominant thought, or is that just appearing to you? Let's talk about what you believe to be true. Are you the architect for that which you believe to be true, or is the truth just appearing to you? Is that the way the world is? Is that the way your world is? So to have a dominant thought, to have something that you believe to be true, can be by your design. The only way this is going to work is if it has an emotional buzz, because an emotional buzz is a thought that creates a physical reaction. A thought of marching in the opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games sent a tingle up and down the spine. I was like, oh, I would love to do that. Oh, I would love to do that. Take your hands, put them together, rub them until you feel the heat, and then go, oh, I would love to do that. It's a physical reaction from a thought. Yes, the mind is more powerful than we truly understand. Yes, the mind and body are connected. So if a thought has a physical reaction to it, it's 4 billion neurons saying this is a good idea. What is your good idea based on how it feels? Not how it makes sense, but how it feels. To have this notion of where we're headed in our lives, we are feeling creatures. We are driven by emotions. And if that's the case, why not be the captain of those feelings? Some feelings are going to motivate us to stay away from it. Great. Stay away from it. Some feelings are going to have us feel like we're drawn to it, even if it doesn't make sense. Great. There is so much power in the subconscious mind that we're just barely scratching the surface of how we can make sure this helps us exceed even our own expectations. That's the purpose for us spending time here today. To make sure that you're driven by intention that has this emotional quotient attached to it. The emotional buzz is a litmus test for a good idea. Go back to your high school years. Remember the litmus test. And being able to have a chemical reaction from this litmus test means this is worth paying attention to. There's something called soul taps. Soul taps are fascinating because they may not make sense. I was off hiking one time and I was off alone. I was really struggling with what the next step is and what I needed to do with my business and personally and relationships. I was just really struggling at that time. I was alone on a rock, and then all of a sudden this flock of snowfinches just come, they go like this, and they come out of nowhere, and then they come up over the head, and they just swirling overhead, and then boom, they took off. What the heck is that all about? I don't know, but I will say this, it's called a soul tap. It's like a tap on the shoulder that means this: pay attention. Pay attention to what? I don't know. You could start with what your feelings are. What feels right? Doesn't have to make sense. Just what are the feelings associated with this, and pay attention to that. We all have soul taps. And the soul taps is just another way for the subconscious mind to say, this is a good idea. Nothing becomes clear at the front end. Sometimes you get this Hollywood version of an epiphany. Sometimes this blinding flash of brilliance appears and you go, I know exactly where I need to go, what I need to accomplish. But more often than not, it's like, what is this? That's called the mathematics of opportunity. The mathematics of opportunity is you come up to a door and you open it. And you say, what's past this door? You're going to see more doors. And you can say, well, I picked that door. And then you open that door. The opposite of that is not opening the first door in the first place and just staying stuck. Being stuck is a horrible feeling. Being stuck means there's no clarity. Clarity doesn't happen until you open a door and say, well, what is the other door I need to open? Clarity equals freedom. Think of that movie, what was it? Mel Gibson in... what was the movie? Braveheart. Think of the movie Braveheart. And Mel Gibson, get it? Anyway, Mel Gibson yelling out, freedom! He's playing this character of William Wallace in Scotland and wanted to have freedom from the England and the king and whatever. This whole concept of freedom became a rallying cry for everyone to understand this is the direction we're headed. Having this direction of where we're headed has to resonate, has to feel right, has to be so deep down that you know, oh, this is a great idea. And at the front end, sometimes it makes no sense. Are you feeling stuck right now? Are you in a position right now where you don't know what the next step is? In particular, for those listening to this that aren't driven by feelings, I'm talking to you right now. And the feeling of having that notion of what feels right doesn't necessarily have to make sense. Just what feels right. And open a door and see what's there. Clarity leads to freedom. You don't have to be William Wallace wearing a kilt yelling at people from a horse. You can actually have this freedom through having more clarity. So, understanding the clarity of where we're headed, understanding that we are in the position to have more clarity by the actions we take. The concept of the ant and the elephant. The ant, the conscious mind, may have some questions, but the subconscious mind knows. 4 billion neurons every second. Research by Dr. Lee Poulos. If there are 4 billion neurons at the subconscious level firing off every second, what are the messages coming from your subconscious mind? It's natural to feel confusion. It's also natural to follow a feeling. Marching in the opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games didn't make sense, but it felt right. And to be able to align your intention of, let's say, just going towards those opening ceremonies 4 years after no ski race experience, and then marching in the opening ceremonies of the Olympics in Albertville, France. Yes, that was a dream come true. It was also a dream that had this feeling of sharing it with family. Being able to get to the opening ceremonies and have family in the audience meant that following your emotional buzz ends up being a gift for those in your world. It's not just a gift to yourself, it's the gift to others as well. So follow that emotional buzz, and you will exceed your expectations, and this will be a gift to those in your world. Align that. You do that, we got this.